and welcome to Comfy Cozy Up. So we're going to be talking about books I read in April, and April was a good reading month. There were some classics, there was some new releases, and two were on my most anticipated read for the year. There was some mystery, thriller, action kind of deal, and there was romance. So let's get into it. So I read 7 books, and we're gonna start with the one that it was a project, so I had to read it, and that was Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And I'm not gonna go into any detail about most of these books because I did a review on them, but I would say this one is something that I wanted to read because of the most anticipated book, which I will be talking about next. And it's a classic I read as a child, and as an adult, it was just not the experience that I want to ever do again. But it is what it is. It's a classic. It was written. It's the times, and I made it through. Then we have the book that made me read the classic in the first place, and that was James by Percival Everett. And this is an author who I've read before, and I was excited to know that it was a retelling of the black character that showed up in Huckleberry Finn, and gave it justice, made it a page turner, gave it a twist that is for him, added things that made me even wonder when I was reading the classic. And I think it's because I read the classic first, I was able to enjoy this even more, of certain things that was done that was just like, okay, yes, this is my kind of retelling that I can enjoy, where it didn't take too much away from the original, but it just gave that certain things that happened in the original somewhat of a redemption of a hero kind of take on it. And so I love this. Excited to see where this book is gonna land in all these other awards that's coming up. And I do recommend it. Again, there are several recommendations. There's one from well-known YouTuber who suggests what she read before she read this, in terms of if you do not want to read that full classic, as I can understand, it is not a pleasant book to read. So look at the recommendation from others and then read this. Then I decided to read another author that I feel every time they release now that I want to buy. I don't have this jump out of my skin for this author like other people, but I do enjoy her story, and I thought a love song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams was well done, and it was different. So I feel like because that she's known for more of a romance, people walked into this expecting a traditional romance, and it is not. This is a story that has a bit of magical realism, and it also has a historical fiction theme. It is going back into the present as well as Harlem Renaissance era. So because of that, I think people were a little bit thrown off. It is definitely more of a historical fiction with a love story in the twist. And in this, you have a woman who is like the rebel in a family, who does not want to get into the family business, want to venture out on her own, and she just happened to meet the elderly woman who gave her an opportunity that she did not resist. And this opportunity led her to a man also that crossed her path with a mystery to him, but there's that instant connection that they have. And while you are learning about the Harlem Renaissance era and what was happening with that character, you kind of have your mind twisted, like, what are we doing here? And that's where the magical realism come in. I thought it was different. I thought it was well done. I enjoyed this. It was just my kind of era. You guys know I am a big fan of the Harlem Renaissance, so this was giving me exactly what I wanted it to give me. So I really appreciate this. But again, if you read 7 Days in June and expecting that kind of storyline, it is not, which I appreciate the author being able to venture out and try different methods of telling a story that is not the typical love story. This was good. Then we got a popular book that I wanted to read because I've been reading from Frida. So I finally read some Frida, and that is The Teacher. Not what I expected at all, but I was happy about it. This is my introduction to Frida, and I'm really going to continue. I did pick up another popular book that everybody said that's their favorite. And I even saw a co-worker reading that book at work, and I was just like, okay. So I love this. This is giving me a bit of a twist. It's, you know, has some psychological thriller action going on in this. And it really is a story that the forbidden, the scheming, that kind of deal. But I didn't know where it was going, because this is one of those where I didn't like nobody at first. Like, I literally didn't like nobody. Like, I didn't like the husband and wife who are teachers, the student who has always somehow caught up in some kind of scandal, and how she's connected to these teachers and what things happen, and this, how it spiraled out of control, and how you don't know how it's going to end. Even when you think you know the end just still end up turning into something else. I like this. This is fun for me, and I think if you're a person who are not consumed by thriller, like that's not your favorite genre, but you like reading it, that's me. You enjoy books like this more because you're not constantly reading thriller. Because for me, I didn't see some of the clues, which when I finished the book, I was like, oh, how did I miss that kind of deal? I like this, and it's me and Frida. We're gonna continue. Then the next part, highly anticipated book, that I was looking forward to is Village Weaver by Miriam J.A. Chansey. And let me tell you, I love Haitian writers. If you didn't hear that before, you hear it again. I am a Haitian writer fan. I am Jamaican, but I love some Haitian writer. And she is that woman that's going to tell story weaving in her culture. And I love this. And it's one of those stories that I feel like I want to protect the story. I want people to go in and not know too many things about it, because there's relevant secrets in this that makes the story a little bit more powerful in terms of the connection between two women. You have two women who met as a kid in school, and they gravitate each other, each having what the other wished they had. One grew up with wealth on the island, while the other one was struggling. But families where the differences come, where one is connected to their family even though they don't have much, while the other one has to deal with the struggle of colorism, the struggle of keeping up with the Jonas kind of behavior, and all the things that happen. And I love how you get a journey with them. It gives you that historical fiction, because you're going back into the 1940s and to the 2002, and how things changed with them, how their marriage, their children, their career, things that happened between them. And it gives you that. And again, because I am a really super fan of historical fiction, this was sweet, because there's certain parts of this era that I was not aware of in Haiti. And it gave me something that I love, because I tend to also read a lot of Haitian books that goes way back, so you don't get certain things. But this was it. And if you haven't picked this up yet, please pick it up. And again, she writes good. She butter, yes. And then here comes a classic that Isla Leroy. So this is Frances Ellen Watkins Harper's classic, and please watch the video that I did with this. And what I would say is, this was believed to be the first book written by an African American woman, which was later discovered in 1982 that it was not. We all know who discovered, and the book that was actually the oldest, which I've read on this channel before about 2 years ago. I thought about this when I was reviewing this, I Got Robbed. Like, I felt like it's one of those classic, like, why did I not know about it before? Why did I not read it before? It is really intertwined with different era of pre-Civil War, Civil War, and the aftermath of Civil War. And I think this book really was the first book that really captured a community, a black community, reconstruction, things that are going to still be a cycle when you think of certain things that happen in that era, and how it's the same thing happening but with different things now. I liked how this book really focused on passing, because the characters in this are passing there. You know, you have a white man who fell in love with a slave that he provided for and gave education to, and married, and lived that life that no one really knew was this one passing, because if you saw her, she doesn't. She has the one drop factor. And how they have kids, and things happen where he passed away, and now is a family member revealed his secrets and wanted to shove them back into slavery, including the kids who are in this. So the character that the book is named of is away in the north for school, and how things different for them, because now the children are discovering their roots and what they really are, and not wanting to pretend and not live their truth, and how the storyline affected them. It's different because when you think of being black, where there's no if and a but, if I walk in a room, versus in this, the characters, you wouldn't know. So their struggles and their discrimination doesn't happen until they actually open their mouth and actually tell what they are, which makes the story different, because when you think of other stories of black characters in historical fiction, is much more brutal because of the fact that their identity is well known, versus these people, it's different. It's almost like they didn't know how to react to them, because if they look in the mirror, they look like them. You know, the one drop is just not visible kind of deal. I thought this was interesting. I thought the storyline really was about family, about connection, about what do you do in the midst of the aftermath of Civil War, and how do you build your community. The women in this, especially the main character, that the book is named after her, and her desire to teach, and wanted to connect to her people. And even though it's sort of like she doesn't belong, you know, she's not black enough, she's definitely not white, you know, she's in the middle, but not knowing how to really belong in a community that she feels connected to, based on even her knowing her and discovering other family members that she didn't know of. I enjoyed this. I thought it was different. I thought it's one of those classics I feel like you should read. She did cram a lot in 200 something page, and I don't know how she did it, but she did it, you know, she did it 214 page. This could easily have been about 400 page book. Easily. I feel that there are things that there's missed opportunity to elaborate on certain parts of the story. But this is a classic, and I think back then, you know, for it to be one of the first, perhaps if maybe they assume being too long might have been a problem and not getting it published. But it is published, it is reprinted. I think there's quite a few decades that this book was not in print, but it's out, and I'm appreciating this. I wonder what else juicy stuff is out there that I have not discovered yet. So if you know, hand it to me. Then the next book I read on my Kindle, because the physical book was a way too expensive for a paperback. I absolutely was not a fan of that price point. For a paperback, I would pay that for a hardcover, but a paperback, absolutely not. So I read it in Kindle, and it was also free on Kindle, and that is Then Life Was Beautiful by Asia Monique. So I'll put the folder here. And it is a pick. This was the April pick out of the jar, and I was like excited about it because it was romance, and I didn't have any romance on my list, but I'm glad I did pick this up. Now, what I would say about this book is it is a love story that I thought was different. It is true romance. It is about a man and a woman who, in the midst of them enjoying each other, if that's the best way to put it, life changed. You have a man who was previously with a woman for 4 years, and the only reason why that relationship ended was because she did not want to have children, and he did. However, they broke off, and in the midst of that, the woman discovered she was pregnant and kept that secret away from the man until she had birthed their daughter and passed away. So now this man is discovering he has a child, and the mother is deceased, and he's now having to be a father, which is something he wanted, but not in this way. Then the current girl that he's dating, which is the story is also about, is perspective of both of them, she discovers she's pregnant. So that is just how do they have this relationship that didn't have before because there was no title. So now there is, but there's real connection with them. So now there's a new child, one on the way. How are they going to make it work? And this is what you get in this storyline. There's a lot of family interaction on both sides in this. A lot of discovering what they want and what they never shared while they were having fun. I thought this was really a good romance and different romance because, again, life happens, and I'm sure the circumstance is not new to a lot of women who have experienced that kind of romantic connection and things happen. The only issue I had with the book, I felt like it was a little too long for what it was. I do think the author wanted to really capture a true romance without it being more without it being such a smut kind of deal, which I appreciate because I do like those kind of romance as well. But I think for me, part of it was just like, okay, yeah, this is just long. Even the end, the epilogue was on the lengthy side. But I do like the growing things that happened with them and the children and how things happened and how they connected. I really like that, and I thought it was a really sweet, absolutely sweet romance, and I do recommend it. But my dear, if she ever see this, drop that price. That is way too much money for a paperback. Absolutely not. No paperback. So, alright guys, and that is all the books that I've read. Let me know, as usual, what's your favorite. You guys gave me quite a few, so that jar went back up a little, but you know, we can always add some more into the jar. So let me know what's your favorite book that you would like me to read and add to the jar, and I will see you guys on the next one. Yay! And yeah, y'all see my dress. Go see that shorts and all the stuff that I completed, which I realized after I finished the video. There were 2 things missing off the list. Yeah, which is over here, but it is what it is. But I did do a lot of sewing last month, and this month I don't know if I'm going to get to do all that because I do have things I want to do. So anyway, come back for more goodies, and I will see you in the next one.